International affairs commentator Doug Herbert is joining me here on set. Doug, this is just another thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Adding up to that growing fear within Russia.
Yeah, it really is a growing fear and a climate that sort of a noose is tightening around the civil society, which was already really in retreat in Russia over the past several years, really decade or two. One example, you have a Russian worker working at a government ministry in the Russian hinterlands, in the provinces, summoned by her bosses and told to report the next morning to the town's main square, the central square, which has a big statue of Lenin in it. What are she and all her colleagues expected to do once they arrive in that square? They are going to form the letter Z, the formation which has become the sort of emblem, the pro-Putin emblem. If they are asked by journalists why they are forming the letter Z, they are to tell them to express our support for our leader, Vladimir Putin. Sounds like, something anecdotal and almost invented, but this type of scene is literally, that is a real case scenario, is playing out across Russia. And it points to what is a growing climate where you are not allowed to dissent. And the space between your own private views, your private life, your workplace, and your political convictions, and what you're expected to do on behalf of the state, it's all being lumped together now. There is no division between the two. The fears among a lot of Russians, and there's a silent, perhaps not majority, but a large minority of Russians who are political activists, who have been active in expressing their views. We've seen now 15,000 and counting arrests and detentions of people protesting this war. These are Russians who feel, Stuart, more and more that they are living in an immoral Russia, a Russia in which they say, some of them, they are ashamed to be Russian. Great civilization with great artists and dancers and culture and literature, and yet they're ashamed to be Russian because they can't express themselves. They don't want to be seen as, simply because they are Russian, that is equivalent to supporting Putin. A lot of them are now beginning to vote with their feet. They don't want to stay behind and fall into the trap of political persecution, of being conscripted into the army, of being isolated and literally severed from the rest of the world. So they're leaving right now. And we've seen tens of thousands of them go to places like Istanbul in Turkey, Yerevan in Armenia, but also to places on the border with Russia, such as Estonia, Latvia, Finland, to try to set up new lives. Some hope to return. Some say they are shutting off the lights as they go, and they're not looking back.
Doug, you've long been an expert on the region. I mean, is this raising for you and for people there as well real dark echoes from the past?
Yeah, I mean, it's, forget whether it's raising for me or not. I mean, Russians who know their history, and Russians are well-educated and well-schooled in their history, except for the most recent generation, which has perhaps a skewed teaching of especially the Soviet past and the Stalinist crimes. But they know very well the term vrag naroda in Russian, which means enemy of the people. Now, the Russians didn't invent it, nor did the Soviets invent it, but it was used prominently by this term, enemy of the people, by the first chief of the then Cheka. The Cheka was the forerunner to the KGB. And the notion was there were these undesirable, these deplorables, I guess, elements among the Russian population, a fifth column, which needed to be rooted out to purify Russia so that it could be the great, glorious civilization that it is. Now, that might sound familiar because Vladimir Putin in recent days has referred to pro-Russian traitors and scum, a fifth column. And he has basically indicated, in so many terms, almost explicitly, that anyone who dissents with his view of a great Slavic brotherhood, a Russian world united monolithically, if you do not sort of espouse and embrace that view, you are potentially an enemy of the people. Putin himself hasn't used the expression yet, but the terminology he has used, traitors and scum, predatel in Russian is the word for traitor, and it's very close to the language of vrag naroda, enemy of the state. A lot of Russians look at that language and they say, this is not long ago history. This is relatively recent history. It is scary history. Are we being dragged back into that dystopian world where you're either with us or against us? And if you're against us, that being the Russian state, you better watch out and look over your shoulder. That's what a lot of Russians are doing right now.
Doug, thanks very much, Doug Herbert, International Affairs commentator here on France 24.